Hey, Bria! It's a comedy show! Did you forget?
Nah, big dog, I didn't forget. Sam Rice wants an Emmy so damn bad that I'm gonna make my little comedy season like The Bear is a comedy. You know what I mean? Technically.
Welcome back to the Dropout Drop-In. I'm producer Liz.
I'm Jordan Brown, and welcome to our online diary.
Welcome to our online diary. I'm genuinely, this has become the highlight of my week. Not just doing these recordings with you, Jordan, and talking about this season of Dimension 20, but I love so much getting the comments and the feedback on social from everyone who's watching and listening every single week with us. And this week I got a couple DMs like after the episode aired from people being like, oh, I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this week's episode. So thanks for hanging out with us every week, gang, and tuning back in and contributing to the conversation. We're so excited to be doing this with y'all.
We're happy that you're here, and when I told you to get a journal, it's to keep your racist nonsense off the internet, not to not have an opinion on the internet.
A very important disclaimer we wanted to start this week's conversation with. We love hearing your opinions. We don't love vitriol and horrible things being said about people just doing their jobs. But with that said, we're back for another week talking about Misfits and magic. And this week, as you saw in the opening, Abria contributed to the conversation.
Abria
Jordan, I want to
broke
toss
her
it
TikTok
directly to
silence. 10 months since we've seen Abria on TikTok. I now have a 3-streak video going of Abria stitching a video of mine to dunk on. I'll tell you what, this is the most I have ever felt relatable to Abria, because she left that comment of it's a comedy like The Bear is a comedy on my video, and then 2 hours later made that video of her own. And I so many times have left a comment and been like, no, but it's such a good joke, I have to make a video so more people will see it. And that is 100% what happened, and I feel so seen by Abria.
I just am obsessed with the fact that there is like, it's not just a coincidence that like, oh, like Jordan makes like great content about Dimension 20 and Abria sees it and builds on it. No. This is now a pattern of behavior where like Abria's existence on that platform is now tethered to the content you're making in this way. Like I just love the way you're able to provoke these public like disclaimers and additional thoughts.
Someone in my
great.
comments was like, Abria breaks her silence just to taunt us. And I was like, I don't think it's us, gang. I think it's me. But yeah, I love, first of all, I love the sentiment, obviously. The Bear isn't a comedy. The Bear is a drama that is occasionally funny. And this show, I'm going to guess, is going to get funnier, but definitely feels like a drama that is occasionally funny.
I am understanding more and more. I told this story a few episodes back, but if you didn't hear it, when I was at 20-Sided Tavern, and this was just after episode 1 had been released of the season, and I was talking to Abria about how excited we were to cover this season here on the Dropout Drop-In, and she had a very interesting energy about us getting episode 2'd, and that she was worried that people were going to have these, like, reactions to the season, essentially, and I was like, oh, no, like, you know, like, we'll be here either way covering it. Now I'm like, oh, do I feel like I'm having a better and better understanding of where that energy was coming from now that we're in it. But I love Abria's style. I love what we got from Abria this week, and we're going to talk all about it when we get to the Misfit section of the conversation. But we cannot leave that video that Abria posted without talking about the Emmys of it all, which is where my brain really started tingling and thinking through like, oh man, Misfits and Magic trying to make an Emmys run, whether it's a joke or not, we're going to talk about it.
Look, you're going to submit one episode for an Emmy. Like, you chuck episode 3 in there, that's a hell of a powerhouse of an episode. Like, you're gonna watch professional actors cry on cue as they tell a story, and yeah, it is gonna end with dong out Brennan, but you know, it was funny. Like, you'll end in a moment of levity for the folks, and I feel like it is self-contained enough that you don't need the context of episodes 1 and 2 of just like, hey, a person died. Now we're going to try and resurrect them in a piss iceberg. But yes. Tell us, Liz.
I completely
where does this lock
Jordan.
in? Where does this fit in our Emmys? In our Emmys love for Dropout?
Well, I think everything you just said is totally spot on, and with an additional like a disclaimer to accompany that episode, where you have like a brief paragraph describing context to go in to watch. Like that kind of presentation of a one-off episode or an episode mid-series is not totally uncommon. So yes, big yes to everything you just said. Thinking about how the Emmys works in like less than a minute to give everyone a good like framing of how this actually functions. So when Jordan and I personally submitted Dungeons and Drag Queens, no, when Dropout submitted Dungeons and Drag Queens, and they were trying to get that conversation going. You all remember in May, the official stance was that it wasn't eligible in the categories it submitted for because it was only a 4-episode season. So it didn't actually qualify for the categories it had submitted to. So before we started recording, I was thinking through those categories that Dungeons and Drag Queens were trying to fit in, and then where Misfits and Magic is both a season 2 and an 11-episode season. We're not even talking about the same pool of potential categories. We're in a whole different ballgame now. An Emmy for a limited series or anthology is like what Dungeons and Drag Queens was, where it's like a one-off, it's limited. At that time, there was like no official announcement or release that there would be a season 2. That's where the line's drawn, and you're all of a sudden not a limited series or anthology anymore because you're continuing the story. This is a season 2. This is a continuation of a story, and it's a full season, which means all of those thinkings around limited or digital or short form that Very Important People is going into, this is not qualified in any of those categories. You're now thinking in television, the main television category. So you're looking at drama, you're looking at comedy. And in that regard, I don't see this season holding a candle against traditional comedy where this would fit. There's no world in which this would submit into a drama category. And in the comedy categories, this is where you go back to traditional television. You're thinking of Shrinking on Apple TV, which has had its season 2 premiere this week when we're recording. You're thinking about like Ted Lasso. You're thinking, I'm trying to think about any comedy that's on Apple TV.
The Bear. You're thinking about The Bear, which, fun fact, if you're about to comment, well, The Bear's a comedy because it's however long, that's not the rule anymore. The Bear's a comedy because they didn't want to compete against Succession. And now they're getting their asses kicked by Hacks, so they'll probably go back to drama.
Hacks is a great show. My God. Okay, that's a whole other conversation for us to have. This is a good time to plug. I learned this week that Jordan's pop culture frame of reference is much wider than I gave it credit for. And you can see some of that in the, I'll have a YouTube video posted in the Dropout Drop-In podcast playlist. That was a mouthful to say. Here on YouTube, you can see Jordan and I live reacting to the Very Important People Season 2 trailer. We break down, like, guest by guest, what we thought of all the costumes with all of you. It was very, very fun. Let's talk about episode 4, shall we? Do you want me to give a roll to our magical Abria dice?
Absolutely.
All right, you can let me know what moment in episode 4 felt like a 12 to you. I feel like I rolled 12 almost, or 16 almost every episode.
A 12 is... Jammer and Sam trying to get away from from Evan and Kay having a full emotional fight about something as they try to sneak away. Not high enough to actually get away, high enough to get back a few paces before you've been noticed and then called out for, like, don't leave, you stay here for this whole fight. Oh man, so uncomfortable.
Unbelievably uncomfortable and funny. When I was interviewing Reka about Never Stop Blowing Up, one of my big questions was about like physical comedy at the D&D or actual play table, just because like obviously you're sitting, like you're pretty restricted in what you can do and offer. That was an example of physical comedy at the Dimension 20 table that just makes me crack up, like the way they were doing this and like just giving us so much that without words we knew exactly what those characters were trying to do. I was losing it. I thought it was brilliant.
So good. So good.
So good. I can't beat that, so I'm going to stick with the exact same answer as you, and let us know in the comments what moment in episode 4 felt like 20 on the dice to you.
12 on the dice.
Oh, what did I say, 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I did, yeah.
I can tell you what felt like a 20. We'll get to it.
What
it was
like a 20?
Boudica. That's the 20 of it all. Oh boy, Brennan Lee Mulligan, you're a bad man.
Let's just transition right into the Misfits half of this conversation and talk about the performances everyone gave. Yeah, let's start with Brennan. Take it away, Jordan.
I just, like, the thing that I love most about all of it is I saw people commenting, how long do you think he's had that locked and loaded? Like the drop into like whatever he said. And like, he didn't. He didn't have it locked and loaded. That is Brennan Lee Mulligan. That's his brain 24/7, baby. That is how he operates. Like, he does not pre-write things like that. He is just ready to drop into a monologue at literally no notice. And it is, it's delightful. But yeah, Brennan, like, the fight of it all, a separate, like, beautiful performance. I love that. But yes, you attack someone I love, you're dead. That's it. Ooh, oh, terrifying, and I love it so much.
Give me a little shiver up my spine. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jordan. I was like, ooh, Evan Kelp, okay. Yeah. Going back to our episode 2 title, I forget which one, episode 2 or 3 on YouTube here. It's like, is Evan Kelp Brennan Lee Mulligan's best character in that moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on that team, that's for sure.
Yeah. Also, is Evan Kelp just Brennan Lee Mulligan? I think you attack someone Brennan loves in real life, and I've heard him tell the story of, like, he was punching someone until they were on the ground because they attacked someone that he loved. So, yeah, well, Brennan is fight in Fight or Flight.
I think it is true that, actual play characters are tethered to, like, some real, like, piece of you, like, and never beating the allegations over there to Brennan Lee Mulligan original character. I will say that one piece of Brennan's performance this week that really stuck with me, and I feel like I'm having moments with each of the performers. Last week, seeing some of the choices Danielle made as Sam, I found them very profound. This week, I had some of that from Brennan, where we could just see the chain of logic that Brennan performs by, right? Like, he is so deeply immersed and versed, I didn't mean for those words to rhyme, but they do, in the logic of decision making that his characters exist by, and like their like moral ethical codes that they operate by. And you see this in all of the characters that he plays, but I found especially this episode, the speed at which he's able to process that level of decision making is so profound to me. Like, you can see sometimes in other players, not just in this season, but just in general, you can see players like talking through decisions out loud, thinking out loud, taking time to like come to what like the right thing to do is, or finding it through patterns of behavior. But the speed at which Brennan can get there was, I found, outstanding this episode. Like, and it, it's easy to say that knowing that they edit the episode and like who knows how fast these things actually were, but even with that caveat, I found it really like magical to watch him like move as quickly as he was.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I also really love the Evan Sam of it all. Like, their relationship is really beautiful and fun. That I just didn't feel like we got a ton of in the first season of Misfits, and like that everyone at the table is so good, but they really played off each other really well in this episode. Speaking of, you ready for my transition? How about the playing off each other of a FaceTime call between Whitney Jammer's teammates and Evan Kelp? Give me your thoughts, Liz.
1, Abria Iyengar. You magical NPC person. You. And I said this in a previous episode, the way that Abria approaches NPCs is magical to me, because I always feel like I'm never meeting them and shaking their hand and saying hi. I'm finding them in the middle of something. And the FaceTime call was one for one exactly that logic of finding someone in the middle of something, and us as a viewer both having to like catch up a little bit, but also like it's very fun for me as a viewer to meet someone in that way. I find that like a different kind of experience. So the way that Abria performed that, made choices in both of the I think it was the 2 main NPCs that we actually heard from in that FaceTime. I just loved it. I thought it was so magical. I thought the energy and the way that like Abria and Lou were building off of each other, and then Lou's switch.
Yeah.
Jordan.
Lou talking.
Magic.
Lou talking about that in the adventuring party where he's like, being on a, like, FaceTime live whatever with any of you, because he does that so routinely to, like, promote Worlds Beyond Number or whatever. He's like, it is truly the most fun. The moment it's off, I'm asleep. I'm supine was the phrase he used, and I was like, that's so good. We also met some people. Look, I'm just going to keep using your thoughts as transitions because they're so good today. Not that they're not always good. That's a... no. This became backhanded. It wasn't supposed to be. Speaking of meeting Abria's NPCs mid-something, that whole island was mid-something. We rolled into an island of, hey, we've been doing this for a while, and the players are trying to catch up as the audience is trying to catch up of like, ooh, wait, I'm sorry. 206 what? Like, what's happening? Oof.
I desperately want to hear from everyone in the comments how, on a scale of, on a 20-sided die, how haunted were you by Abria's monologue and what the hell is up on that island? Because Brennan was a full 20. I have to admit, I was playing Tetris. I was. And I got halfway through that monologue and had to restart it because I realized I wasn't actually absorbing what was happening. And then Tetris was lost immediately. Wow, Abria's brain.
Yeah, it's so good. I was not nearly as haunted as Brennan was, and I have to imagine that this is the Evan Kelp Brennan of it all. There is something, like, I think that idea, Brennan voiced it, of destroying what you love to keep what you had, I think is, for Brennan, a specific, like, emotionally haunting trigger. But yeah, I think it was after the fact, someone was like in a comment somewhere, someone was like, yeah, it was 206. That can't have been an accident. I broke 206 magical items twice. Like, the human body has 206 bones. She didn't choose that number by accident. Abria doesn't choose things like that by accident. The implication being that they had broken every one of their bones, which feels crazy, because some of them would be real hard to break, but not only had done it, but done it twice. And also, we talked just before we recorded the implication that they had killed their potions teacher because their potions teacher is a sentient cauldron, but they had that isn't around anymore. Seemed to really imply that, and obviously also killed all of their familiars to just get a taste of the magic, a taste of what they used to be able to do. And oh god, it is haunting. I'm not on Brennan's side that it's not haunting. I've seen Abria do worse.
It was like the layers of how disturbing it was, and then the beat of the familiars on top of that was like, Bria, twist the knife, why don't you? Like, you can't lay all that logic out for me and then tell me all the familiars are gone too. I will say that the bone piece specifically, did anyone else think of, like, you know, that SpongeBob meme of the guy that's like, all my bones break every day? I'll put it in the edit. I'll put it on the screen. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jordan? I'll send it to you after this. I'm sure that people are gonna know what I'm talking about. There's a SpongeBob character that breaks all of his bones every day because they're made of glass, and he's in like a full body, like, bandage kind of such. Anyway, my brain did go there. I was like, oh, Abria, I really hope that's where that idea came from. Very funny.
Anytime someone is like, well, she probably was thinking of this, my brain is always like, she's about my age. I'm a little older than her, and I don't know that reference, so I don't know if she did. Which certainly is not the case, but, like, when the Percy Jackson of it all came out last year, I was like, I bet Abria has no idea any of this about Percy Jackson, and I was right about that.
You've been known to be right once or twice. I'm gonna live in a world where Abria made a deep cut SpongeBob meme reference.
I think she is Tumblr online enough to have seen that. So
it is a very chronically online reference to make. I do want to say within, like, this monologue, man, the MVP of the episode being Kay's glasses. That triggered that whole thing. Wow, I was like, what an item to call for, and what a perfect time use of it, question to ask with it. Like,
Yeah.
couldn't be better than that.
I adore everything Erica is doing this season. I love a good, complicated character. Was it this episode where Erica moved back to neutral on their, like,
Yes.
personal scale? So funny.
So
just
good.
like keep doing things that are so deeply complicated, because that's the characters that we should be building. It's one of the reasons why this season is so magical, to like not accidentally but very intentionally choose that word, is because the characters feel very three-dimensional, and it's delightful.
Yes. I loved in the adventuring party when Erica was talking about like thanking everyone for giving space at the table for like the breakup conversation to happen, and Erica being like, I trust these performers with my lives, like that whole like piece of it.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to do complex character work in such a time-bound environment where you know you're on like a finite 10 11 episode like run, and it's amazing to see Erica's commitment to complexity.
Yeah.
Like that is one of the big takeaways from this season for me, is Erica's commitment to like going against the grain, giving complex and nuanced and unpalatable performances that make you think, and like giving so much to the table for other people to like grow their characters through. It's just really, it's a really generous and thought-provoking thing that Eric is doing. And like, I feel like by the end of the season, I'm going to have a thesis to write about like just how important that standard is for someone like Erica to be like pushing on a show like this. It's very, very cool, but we're not at the end of the season yet, so I gotta pause my thoughts there until we see the end of the arc.
Let's go from Misfits to Magic, because that's the two topics, and I want to start, as I am now always going to start, with my Tabby Tower of Love. Oh, Tabby. Look, I yelled about this season, about,
Jammer.
Yes. I yelled about this season not being a comedy, and obviously that warranted a response from Abria. To be clear, obviously I was joking. But, my God, Tabby hating Jammer is genuinely the funniest thing happening in this season. It's hysterical. Very clearly, Abria and I'm sure Carlos before the season got together and they're like, well, everyone loves Jammer, so what if Tabby hated him for no reason? And Lou plays it perfectly. But yes, the line through Jammer when Tabby is not speaking, like, so good. I love it so much. I saw someone was like, well, Abria chose because she probably can do anything. I'm like, nope, those are preloaded things. Like, she does not have like and then put this word with the line. Like, there's not the full keyboard setup back there. She's got buttons she's pressing, and one of them was not Jammer. That was the line that she got to press. And so funny.
The choice for Tabby to be able to speak in fully coherent English sentences that are complete, that have proper sentence structure, so we know that Tabby can communicate in like full thoughts as the humans in this world would. And then Tabby then using their secondary form of communication being like these one-word magic 8-ball like kooky little like graphic designs and like patterns and like sigil looking like displays and images. Hysterical.
Yes.
Hysterical.
The fact that it was like doubtful, like it was fully just like, here are magic 8-ball things, but then also we programmed it to say not Jammer.
Not Jammer.
Hysterical. Brennan, turning out the lights. Liz, thoughts? It was haunting.
Okay, I just need to sidebar for a second, and you just skip ahead 30 seconds if this isn't you, but for anyone who's ever read anything on archiveofourown.com. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. If you know, you know. We just had a whole conversation with our brains about that trope and how it's been used, and now we're back. That wraps up my thoughts on how I felt about that moment. Evan?
This does explain why I've seen people writing about it in the comments that I did not understand why. I still don't understand why, but I am clearer as to why the comments are being made. And I will
Let me
never
be very
learn.
clear. If you don't understand, you're not missing anything. But if you know, and okay, here's the pathway if you really want to get into it. Kylo Ren fan fiction. That's all I'll say.
Got it.
That's all I'll say.
It's a good,
Kylo Ren
it's a good
fan fiction readers
breadcrumb.
know.
Yeah, good breadcrumb for our audience to be able to follow.
Yes, and I if y'all don't get in my DMs about that, then what was the point of this whole episode? But yes, Evan turned out the lights without hesitation for his ex, Kay.
Yeah.
And okay, one thing that did slip was someone used the word love. Was it Kay or was it Evan?
It was Evan. Evan said, "You attack people I love, you're dead."
The camera cut to Kay reacting to that. And that little tiny thread, I need it not just pulled, I need it yanked out of the fabric of this sweater next episode. Like, I want to see them get into, like, what does their relationship look like that obviously still has love, even if it's not, like, romantic love. Like, let's see those two non-communicators find a way to communicate about it without Jammer and Sam on the side. I cannot wait for that to happen this season.
Yeah, Brennan made that word choice on purpose, for sure. And yeah, I am so excited to see the outcome of that, because I had the same reaction as, like, he just said love. He was yelling at them like an hour ago about killing him. Yeah.
What did you think in that moment? What was going through your head in that moment?
Look, I love what they did in... So often in D&D, a first relationship or a relationship is like a true love, the end, because no one wants to play a breakup in their fantasy games. Like, that's not fun. And so I love that they chose, like, I love in the holiday special that we got high school relationships don't last, and Evan being like, wait, what? What do you mean? And now we flash forward and be like, correct, yeah, the high school relationship didn't last. And so I am not here...
High school relationship didn't last, but I will still knock some lights out for you.
Yeah. I am not here to say I hope they end up together. I don't hope that. I'm also not going to be upset if they do. But, like, yeah, I appreciate, like, and of course it makes sense, right? That Evan loves every single person sitting at that table with him. I mean, yeah, like the metaphorical sitting at that table with him. Like, he loves them for sure. But yeah, there definitely was a moment I was like, oh, he said love. Like, what's Kay's reaction going to be to this? But yeah, haunting Brennan Lee Mulligan. Yes. Haunting.
I desperately want to know Abria's thought process when Evan made that choice, because I don't know what the plan was for Boudica this season. If Abria anticipated, like, at some point they're gonna, like, try and turn the lights out on Boudica, or if, like, Boudica had, like, a greater purpose to serve this season. But it did feel like a moment where it was like, well, whatever your plan was, whatever you thought this was going to map to be, time to pivot.
Yeah.
Feels like the thesis of the season is time to pivot your plan, yes. Abria.
There's no way Abria attacking Kay didn't know that was a strong likelihood of at least an attempted outcome. Also, shout out to Brennan clearing. Was it a DC 30 to shut the lights out? That he cleared by so much. Like, shout out to, again, Brennan Lee Mulligan. He knows the game he's playing. He's ready to play it. How many tokens does he need to burn to get to the thing he needs? He's ready to go. Like, I love it.
This is the magic of actual play, and specifically, like, of what, like, Dimension 20 has done for my own TV watching over the past year, that I have fallen in love with, is, like, you know what the right arc would be in a scripted environment. You know where a character might go in a show that is entirely predetermined, and you are the one that doesn't know what's going on. But watching it happen in a scenario where no one knows how it's going to happen, or if it's going to happen, or if we will have the satisfaction of the moment, is the magic of, like, actual play television. I mean, specific about television, because we're getting it, like, visually, we're getting it through auditory, we're getting, like, a full, almost sensory experience with it. And it was, like, a moment like that made me just so... It reminded me so much of why I love this show specifically. And, like, it's just so freaking satisfying when you see it happen and you want it to happen, and the performers want it to happen equally as much, and they're doing all the things that they have the autonomy to do to make it happen. It's such a gratifying thing to see in real time on your TV.
Also, just like that moment I love that they're capturing more moments in the art of this season instead of just like, here's a character art or whatever. Like, we had that moment of like, here's Kay getting blasted, Evan snapping his wand, like here's like and like the effect that they put on like Boudica's lights being turned off. So like the hugest shout out, Adrian Barro Lugo, just such good art. But I love the choice to capture that moment and give us like the extra visual treat of this is a television medium. You're mostly just watching people improvise, but we are going to show you like what this scene kind of looks like, at least to one particular artist, which I guess canonically is what it looks like. But yes, so good.
I absolutely love the choices that they're making to toss these like beautiful art pieces in. Similarly to how in Never Stop Blowing Up, they were doing the same thing in like these height of the action moments. You would have like the visual of when Jacob's character went into space and we got the shot, like the rocket ship in space and like all the antics, you were actually seeing them. And then same in Mentopolis, I loved how in like the height of the action in those moments we were getting the clips towards the end of the season. My memory on Mentopolis is so skewed because that was the first season of actual play I'd ever watched, and I did not know what was special about it until I gained more context. I think I'm overdue for a rewatch of Mentopolis. But,
well, hey, if you want more information about the Never Stop Blowing Up animatics, just tune into Off the Dome next Friday when I talk to Melina and Sander, the two people responsible for those animatics.
And there's
how's that for a transitional plug?
No, and I wanted to, at the end of this conversation, remind everyone that it is a year of Off the Dome this weekend, which is wild. So even if you're watching this in the future, big shout out to Jordan for a year of interviews. As someone that also interviews for a living, it's bananas to have. I mean, you tell the people the stats, and I'll tell y'all how bananas it is.
72 interviews over the last 52 weeks, with obviously like Sandra and Melina. They are not counted, although the interview was done. 72 released, 64 different people in those interviews.
That's great. Like,
and like 8 of them are Vic Michaelis.
And that's great. And honestly, we need 20,000 more with Vic Michaelis. But that point aside, it's so commendable what you're doing to try and like bring what I would call 360 coverage of like these shows and the space, and putting as much thought into people behind the scenes as in front of the camera. It's a really cool twist on like traditional coverage of shows like this. And I'm just like in awe of what you've done in a year. And I'm so excited to see what like we're celebrating October 19th. October 19th, 2025. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fun. We got the best is yet to come, in theory. I don't know. I'm just going to say it is.
I'm sure. Listen, if you had a first year of like, all gas, no brakes, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen a year from now. So
lessons have been learned, and we're going to go forward smarter and better.
And we're all going to cheer when you start editing your videos even more than you are now. We're all going to go, yay, Jordan editing so
He put a
hard.
clip of the thing he's talking about in. What a triumph.
Listen, and I shouldn't even say anything because y'all see it. The editing on these episodes is not perfect, but it's hard. Doing the pace that you've been doing and keeping the quality and consistency is like a very hard thing to do in this profession. So big shout out to you. We'll be back with more Misfits and Magic coverage over the coming weeks. So stay in the comments and the DMs of your thoughts of the season as we go. Yeah. Make sure to check out our reaction to Very Important People Season 2 trailer dropping. I'll be excited to cover that whole season with you too, Jordan, once we get into November. It's going to be fun.
So soon. I'm so excited. Who do you think's going to be first? I think it's a big name. I think a big name drops the season so that they can really get into it. I think it's like a Bobby Moynihan is first, like someone whose face we can see, like Nicole Byer, Bobby Moynihan, Chris Redd. It's one of those are my 3 picks for number 1.
I'll hedge my bets on Chris Redd. That's my final answer. I think that's like an interesting note to start the season on. I think Bobby's going to be hidden further into the season a little bit just to add some suspense. Chris Redd's going to be my guess for who's kicking us off. But my sleep demon of the season is still 50-50 if it's going to be Zach or Lisa Gilroy. So we'll see where that potentially more important bet falls.
Right.
Very scared for myself.
Yeah.
Very scared for myself.
It's going to be a scary season. I can't wait.
It's going to be great. Can't wait. It'll be so fun to cover that with all of you. If you liked and you're still watching, thanks for hanging out. Subscribe.
Yeah, if you're still watching, come up with a better word than tower for me. Because it can't be Tabby's Corner. It needs to be Tabby's something with a T.
Alliteration.
I can't not do alliteration. It's my favorite thing. So, like, I did consider Tabby's Terracotta because it felt on brand for the episode, as that's what Evan's body was.
Way.
But, yeah. Anyway, that's it. The end. Hooray!
We'll see you next week.
Bye!